The village of Oakhaven nestled in the valley, forever watched by the brooding silhouette of Watcher's Hill. The hill was ancient, cloaked in gnarled oaks and shrouded in mist even on the sunniest days. Villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, their voices barely a whisper. Legends whispered of a lone figure, the Watcher who resided at the peak. Some said the Watcher was a vengeful spirit, forever bound to the hill for some ancient transgression. Others claimed it was a hermit driven mad by grief or solitude. Children were warned to stay clear, told that the Watcher snatched those who strayed too close, their laughter swallowed by the rustling leaves. The truth, shrouded in generations of fear and speculation, remained elusive. For young Tom, however, the whispers held a different kind of allure. He wasn't afraid. He was curious. The stories ignited a spark within him, a desire to unveil the truth behind the legend. Tom, with the impetuosity of youth, decided he would climb the hill. He would confront the Watcher. Tom wasn't reckless. He understood the fear that clung to the hill like morning mist. He had heard the stories, felt the tremor in his grandmother's voice as she recounted them. But fear was a seed that had not taken root in him. In its place bloomed a determined curiosity, a thirst for knowledge that whispered of adventure. He spent days preparing, gathering supplies, studying the hill's contours from afar. He practiced climbing, testing his endurance against the weathered oak trees that dotted the valley. He confided in no one, knowing their fear would only manifest as obstacles. Tom was determined to face the Watcher, to separate truth from the tendrils of myth. As the sun began its final descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Tom set off. He carried a knapsack laden with bread, cheese and water, his heart pounding a steady rhythm against his ribs. His path was shrouded in the impending darkness, his resolve solidifying with each step that carried him closer to the heart of the legend. The base of the hill was deceptively peaceful. Sunlight, though waning, still dappled the forest floor. Birdsong filled the air, a stark contrast to the unsettling quiet that awaited him higher up. As Tom ascended, the trees grew denser, their branches intertwining overhead, effectively strangling the remaining light. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The last vestiges of daylight surrendered to the encroaching darkness. The forest floor, now barely visible, seemed to writhe with shadows. Each rustle of leaves, each snap of a twig underfoot sent a jolt of adrenaline through Tom's veins. He pressed on, his hand gripping the walking stick that aided his ascent. The higher he climbed, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It felt as if the hill itself was resisting his progress, the very air growing thick with an unseen menace. He could almost believe the whispered tales, could almost see the phantom shadows of those the hill had claimed. The cabin materialized from the fog like a phantom, its silhouette stark against the moonlit sky. It stood at the peak of the hill, a crooked sentinel overlooking the slumbering village below. The windows were dark, lifeless, yet Tom could sense a presence within, watching his approach. Hesitantly, he mounted the creaking steps leading to the porch. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the hammering of his own heart. He raised a hand, his knuckles rapping against the weathered wood of the door. The sound echoed in the stillness, amplified by the surrounding silence. The door creaked open before he could knock again. Standing in the doorway was a figure shrouded in shadow, its features indiscernible in the darkness. But as the figure moved aside, gesturing Tom inside, he saw a glimpse of its face. It was a face etched with age and sorrow, framed by long silver hair. The Watcher was real. The interior of the cabin was Spartan, but surprisingly warm. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows that danced across the rough-hewn walls. The Watcher, moving with a weariness that belied his age, gestured for Tom to sit by the fire. He did so, his heart still pounding in his chest. As the silence stretched, punctuated only by the crackling flames, Tom found his fear giving way to a strange sort of pity. The Watcher, he realized, wasn't a monster. He was a man, burdened by a grief that seemed to emanate from him like heat from the fire. Finally, the Watcher spoke, his voice a low rasp that seemed to claw its way up from some deep hidden well of sorrow. He told Tom a tale of love and loss, of a life intertwined with the hill itself. He spoke of a woman, his beloved, who had taken ill and died upon the very spot where the cabin now stood. He spoke of his vigil, his refusal to leave the place where her spirit lingered. The Watcher's tale unfolded like a tapestry woven from moonlight and shadow. He spoke of the spirits drawn to his grief, the restless souls unable to find peace. They whispered to him, he said, their voices a chorus of sorrow that echoed his own. He had become their keeper, their guardian against the darkness that threatened to consume them. Tom listened, his initial fear replaced by a profound sadness. He understood now that the Watcher wasn't a monster, but a prisoner of his own grief, bound to the hill by love and loss. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the cracks in the cabin walls, painting the room in a pale, ethereal light, Tom knew he had to leave. He thanked the Watcher for his story, for sharing his burden. He didn't fully understand the intricacies of the spirit world, but he recognized the depth of the Watcher's sorrow, the weight of his responsibility. He left the cabin, the Watcher's gaze following him, filled with a weary gratitude. He descended the hill, his steps lighter, his heart heavy. Tom's return to Oakhaven was met with a mixture of relief and disbelief. He told his story, sharing the Watcher's tale of love, loss, and the restless spirits that haunted the hill. At first, there was skepticism, a reluctance to abandon generations of fear and superstition. But there was something in Tom's demeanor, a newfound maturity in his eyes that lent credence to his words. Slowly, the village began to change. The fear that had clung to the hill for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of melancholy, a newfound understanding. The villagers, once terrified of the Watcher, now saw him as a tragic figure, a prisoner of his love. They began to leave offerings at the foot of the hill, flowers, candles, tokens of respect for the Watcher and the spirits he guarded. The hill remained a place of mystery, but the fear was gone, replaced by a somber acceptance. Years passed and Tom grew older. The memory of his encounter with the Watcher never faded, the tale becoming a local legend passed down through generations. Oakhaven thrived, the shadow of the hill no longer a source of terror, but a reminder of the enduring power of love and loss. Yet, the Watcher remained. Some nights when the moon hung low and heavy in the sky, villagers would swear they saw a lone figure silhouetted against its pale glow, a solitary sentinel standing watch over the slumbering village. And sometimes, carried on the wind, they thought they heard a faint whisper, a sigh of sorrow that echoed the ancient grief of the hill. The Watcher on the hill had become a symbol, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, love and sorrow could find a strange and enduring harmony. And though the villagers no longer feared the hill, they treated it with a newfound respect, a silent acknowledgement of the secrets it held and the souls it sheltered. The legend lived on, a testament to the enduring power of stories and the mysteries that lie at the heart of the human experience.